My family secretly plotted to steal my home and my wife, convinced my unemployed brother was a misunderstood genius destined to be a billionaire. They pushed me to the absolute edge of my sanity, but their delusions ended up costing them every single penny they owned, while I sat back and watched their entire world burn to ashes. For some context, I, 28 male, am a senior software engineer. 4 years ago, after saving religiously, eating ramen, and skipping every vacation, I bought a sprawling 2,000 SQF loft in downtown Seattle. It wasn't cheap, but it was my absolute dream. Exposed brick walls, massive industrial windows overlooking the skyline, and original 1920s hardwood floors. I spent 18 agonizing months renovating it myself. I breathed in drywall dust, bled over the custom kitchen island I built from reclaimed timber, and poured every ounce of my soul into making it a home. I lived there with my wife Chloe, 27 female. We'd been married for 2 years, and up until this nightmare began, I thought we were perfectly happy. My younger brother, Leo, 25 male, is what you might generously call ambitious, and what any sane person would accurately call a delusional narcissist. He graduated from a mediocre state college with a generic business degree 3 years ago. Since then, he has started and abandoned no fewer than 9 revolutionary business ventures. His brilliant ideas included a crypto mining rig that caught fire and nearly burned down our parents' garage, a dropshipping company that resulted in him getting sued for copyright infringement, and an app that was literally just Tinder but for dogs. His only real achievements so far are maxing out 4 credit cards, moving back into our parents' basement, and somehow convincing them that he is a persecuted visionary. Our parents, Arthur, 58 male, and Helen, 56 female, have always favored Leo. Growing up, I was the quiet, reliable one. I did my chores, got straight A's, and never asked for a dime. Leo was the creative spirit who needed special accommodations. When I got a full ride to a top university, my parents nodded and said, "That's nice, Mark." When Leo finally got accepted into college after his 4th attempt, they rented out a banquet hall and threw a massive party because not all geniuses test well. The absolute insanity started 3 weeks ago. Leo called me at work, something he only ever does when he needs to borrow money. He told me he was coming over that evening to discuss a paradigm-shifting business proposition. I assumed he wanted a loan he'd never repay, so I mentally prepared my usual polite rejections. He showed up at 7 p.m. sharp, wearing an ill-fitting, cheap suit that he wore with the unearned confidence of a Wall Street CEO. He had a faux leather portfolio tucked under his arm and a smug, patronizing smirk plastered across his face. Chloe was sitting on the couch reading a magazine. When Leo walked in, I noticed she immediately sat up straighter, fixing her hair and offering him a blindingly bright smile. I thought nothing of it at the time. "Mark, Chloe," Leo announced, pacing around my living room like he was inspecting a property he was about to flip. "We need to talk about headquarters." "Headquarters?" I asked, completely lost. I watched him run his hand along the exposed brick wall, nodding to himself. "For my next venture," Leo declared, stopping by the massive windows to gaze out at the city lights. "I'm launching something massive, bigger than anything I've ever conceptualized. It's going to completely revolutionize how people interact with digital marketing through AI-driven blockchain integration. This space, it's perfect. The location, the aesthetic, the raw energy. This is where empires are built." I actually chuckled, assuming it was a joke. "Leo, this is my home." He turned to me, his smirk widening into a look of absolute pity. "That is exactly the kind of limited, small-scale thinking that keeps you trapped in a cubicle, Mark. This is why you're still working for someone else while I'm building the future. This space is being wasted as a mere residence. In my hands, it will be the nerve center of a company that changes the world." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. "Are you seriously asking to borrow my loft for a few meetings? Borrow?" He looked genuinely offended, clutching his portfolio. "Mark, I'm talking about a transfer of ownership. You and Chloe can find another place. Something suburban, maybe a little townhouse. Something more suited to your pedestrian lifestyle. I need this loft. It's not about what I want. It's about destiny. Some people are meant to live in apartments, and some are meant to command from penthouses." I stood there, completely speechless, for a solid 10 seconds. I glanced at Chloe, expecting her to laugh or kick him out. Instead, she was staring at Leo with wide, admiring eyes. She looked captivated. "You want me to give you my home?" I finally managed to say. "Not give. We're family," Leo corrected smoothly. "I'm proposing a trade." You transfer the deed of the loft to me, and in exchange, you get to be part of something extraordinary. I will make you a 5% minority stakeholder in my company. When we go public in 2 years, you'll be wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. Leo, get out, I said, pointing to the door. You are out of your mind. This is exactly the close-minded attitude Mom and Dad warned me about, Leo sighed, shaking his head. They said you'd react this way. They said you've always been deeply jealous of my potential. Mom and Dad know about this insane plan? I demanded, my blood starting to boil. Who do you think suggested I talk to you? Leo shot back. They understand what you clearly don't. Some people are born to change the world, and others are born to support those who do. There is no shame in being support staff, Mark. Not everyone can be a visionary. I physically grabbed him by the shoulder and escorted him to the front door. He didn't fight back, but as he stepped into the hallway, he adjusted his cheap tie and said, "This conversation isn't over. Mom and Dad want to have dinner on Sunday. We'll discuss this as a family." After I locked the door, I turned to Chloe, expecting her to share my outrage. Instead, she was frowning at me. "Mark, did you really have to be so rude to him? He's just trying to build something for himself. He asked me to sign over our $800,000 home for 5% of a fake company, Chloe." "Are you kidding me?" She rolled her eyes, picking up her magazine again. "You don't know it's fake. Maybe if you actually listen to him instead of always assuming you're smarter than everyone else, you'd see he has a point. It's just a loft, Mark. We could always buy another one." I was too stunned to argue. The next few days were a blur of harassing text messages from my parents. My mother sent me daily articles about how successful people recognize opportunity and the importance of family loyalty. My father called me to give a stern lecture about my scarcity mindset. "Mark, not everyone in a family can be the star," my dad said over the phone, his voice dripping with disappointment. "Sometimes the best thing you can do is recognize who has the real potential and support them. Leo has a gift. Don't let your petty jealousy cloud your judgment." I hung up on him. I felt like I was losing my mind. Am I insane? Or has my entire family completely lost touch with reality? Update 1. 2 weeks later, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Your advice kept me grounded during what turned out to be an absolutely surreal and horrifying 2 weeks. The situation has escalated dramatically, and I need to document this insanity. The Sunday family dinner was at my parents' house in the suburbs. Chloe and I drove together, though she spent the entire car ride aggressively texting someone and ignoring me. When we arrived, I found that Leo had completely rearranged my parents' living room. He had set up a projector, a pull-down screen, and a laptop. He was wearing the exact same ill-fitting suit. My mother hugged me at the door, whispering frantically, "Please, Mark, just keep an open mind." He worked so hard on this presentation. The presentation was a 4-5 slide PowerPoint titled, "Synergistic Relocation Proposal: Maximizing Family Assets for Exponential Growth." I am not exaggerating. Leo clicked to the first slide. It featured photos of my loft that he had secretly taken during previous visits. He had heavily annotated the photos, detailing how each room would be optimized for maximum entrepreneurial output. My bedroom was labeled the Innovation Suite. My home office was the Strategy War Room. He had even designated my master bathroom as an executive refreshment center. The crown jewel of his pitch was a massive graph showing projected company growth. It started at 0 and rocketed up to a valuation of $100 million by year 3. There were no data points, no methodology, just a literal green line going up and to the right. "As you can see," Leo said, pacing in front of the screen with a laser pointer, "the trajectory is undeniable. But environment is crucial. Every successful entrepreneur needs a space that matches their ambition. Mark's loft isn't just a want. It is a strategic necessity for securing Series A funding." My father was nodding along, stroking his chin like he was watching a TED Talk. "Very compelling, son. Extremely compelling. I couldn't take it anymore." "Leo, even if I was legally brain dead enough to consider this, you haven't explained what this company actually does." Leo smiled, pointing the laser pointer at me. "That's the beauty of it, Mark. We aren't limited by conventional business models. We are creating a dynamic platform that leverages AI to disrupt traditional marketing paradigms through blockchain integration and machine learning algorithms." "That is literally just a soup of meaningless buzzwords," I snapped. "What is the product? What are you selling?" "You're thinking too small, Mark," Leo sighed, looking at my parents for sympathy. "We don't do one thing. We revolutionize everything." My mother interjected, glaring at me. Mark, stop being so hostile. Leo has already had interest from several major investors. What investors? I demanded. Leo smugly pulled out his phone and showed me an email chain. The major players were painfully obvious scam artists. One email literally began with, Dear Sir, Madam, we guarantee funding of $5 million USD for your revolutionary idea. Please remit the facilitation fee to. Leo, this is a scam, I said, rubbing my temples. This is the Nigerian Prince email, but for startup bros. That is exactly the kind of toxic negativity that keeps you chained to a desk, Leo shouted, his face turning red. These are international venture capitalists. My father stood up, slamming his hand on the table. Mark, we did not raise you to be this selfish. Family supports family. When Leo succeeds, and he will, we will all benefit. But success requires sacrifice. Whose sacrifice? I yelled back. I don't see Leo sacrificing anything. He lives in your basement for free. I am sacrificing my comfort, Leo protested loudly. Do you think it's easy being a visionary surrounded by people who don't understand my potential? I could be making 6 figures at some corporate job, but I'm choosing to build a legacy instead. You couldn't get a corporate job if your life depended on it. You've been rejected by every entry-level job you've applied for. My mother gasped, clutching her pearls. Chloe, who had been quiet the whole time, suddenly stood up and glared at me. Mark, that is incredibly cruel. You are completely suffocating his dream because you're terrified he's going to be more successful than you. I stared at my wife, feeling a cold pit open in my stomach. Why was she defending him? The evening ended with my parents making a horrifying announcement. They were liquidating $60,000 from their retirement accounts to invest in Leo's venture. They had already hired a business development coach for him, a guy he found on Instagram who charges $1,000 an hour for Zoom calls. I left the house in disgust. Chloe rode home in complete silence, refusing to look at me. Over the next 2 weeks, things got worse. Leo started showing up at my apartment building while I was at work. He tried to bribe the concierge into letting him use the resident lounge for investor meetings. I had to officially ban him from the premises. My parents bombarded me with texts, calling me a traitor. But the absolute worst part was Chloe. She started sleeping in the guest room, claiming my negative energy was giving her migraines. Update 2. 1 month later. I am shaking with rage as I type this. I have gone from dealing with family delusions to facing actual legal threats and a betrayal so profound it makes me sick to my stomach. 3 weeks ago, I got a call at work from my building manager, Sarah. She sounded incredibly stressed. Mark, your brother is here in the lobby, with a gentleman claiming to be his attorney. They are requesting access to your unit for a business inspection. They showed me a partnership agreement with your signature on it. I dropped everything, told my boss I had a family emergency, and sprinted to my car. When I arrived, Leo was standing at the concierge desk with a man in a cheap, shiny suit who introduced himself as Marcus Vance, Esquire. They handed me a document. It was a transfer of equity partnership agreement, detailing that I was signing over 100% of my loft's deed to Leo's company in exchange for a 5% stake. At the bottom was my signature. It was a blatant, sloppy forgery. This is fraud, I said loudly, ensuring the lobby security cameras caught everything. I never signed this. I am calling the police right now. Marcus Vance, who I am 99% sure bought his law degree off a pop-up ad, immediately started sweating and backing toward the revolving doors. There seems to be a misunderstanding. I will need to consult with my client. He practically sprinted out of the building. Leo, however, stood his ground. You did sign it, Mark. 3 weeks ago at Mom and Dad's house. You were drunk. You don't remember. But Mom and Dad witnessed it. They saw you sign. I pulled out my phone and called my parents on speakerphone right there in the lobby. Mom, I said, my voice trembling with fury. Leo is trying to tell me I signed over my house to him while I was drunk. Tell him he's lying. There was a pause on the line. Then, my mother's voice echoed through the lobby. Oh, Mark, you did have quite a bit of wine that night. You might not remember clearly. I had 1 beer, Mom. That's not how we remember it, son. My father chimed in. You were heavily impaired. Leo showed you the contract, and you signed it. We are willing to testify to that fact under oath. My own parents were willing to commit perjury to help my brother steal my home. I looked at Leo, who was smirking triumphantly. I hung up the phone, turned to the security guard, and said, Call the cops. I filed a police report for fraud and attempted identity theft. The officer ran Marcus Vance's name. Turns out he isn't a lawyer. He's a disgraced paralegal who got fired for ethics violations and now runs a legal consulting scam. When my parents found out I involved the police, all hell broke loose. My dad left me a voicemail screaming that I was trying to give my brother a criminal record over a misunderstanding. They started a GoFundMe titled, "Help a Young Visionary Claim His Rightful Headquarters." They painted me as a greedy corporate monster who reneged on a promise. My parents donated $5,000 of their own money to it. But all of this pales in comparison to what I discovered 2 days ago. Chloe had been acting increasingly erratic. She was constantly on her phone, smiling at the screen, and locking it whenever I walked into the room. She started dressing up to run errands and would be gone for hours. With the sheer amount of insanity happening with my family, my paranoia was at an all-time high. 2 nights ago, Chloe took a shower and left her iPad on the kitchen counter. I noticed it was synced to her iMessages. A notification popped up. The contact name was saved as Yoga Studio, but the preview message read, "I can't wait until we kick him out. The master bath is going to look amazing once we remodel it." My heart stopped. I unlocked the iPad. She never changed her passcode from our anniversary date and opened the messages. It wasn't a yoga studio. It was Leo. I sat at my kitchen island and read through months of messages. They had been sleeping together for over half a year. The messages were sickening. Leo had completely brainwashed her. He convinced her that he was on the verge of becoming a tech billionaire, and that I was a dead-end corporate drone who would never amount to anything. Chloe's messages were even worse. "Mark is so pathetic. He doesn't even see your vision. I can't stand looking at him. When are we getting the loft?" Leo's response, "Soon, babe. Mom and Dad are setting up the lawyer. Once the deed is mine, I'm kicking him to the curb, and you can finally be with a real man." But the absolute most gut-wrenching discovery was a group chat. It included Chloe, Leo, and my parents. My parents knew. They knew my wife was sleeping with my brother, and they supported it. My mother had texted Chloe, "I am so glad you finally recognize Leo's true potential, sweetheart. Mark is a good provider, but Leo is a king. You deserve a winner." I felt physically violently ill. I took screenshots of every single message, forwarded them to a secure cloud drive, and packed all of Chloe's belongings into 4 garbage bags. When she got out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, I threw the iPad onto the bed. "Get out," I said. My voice was dangerously calm. She looked at the screen, and all the color drained from her face. She tried to stammer out an excuse, tried to cry, but I just pointed to the garbage bags. "You have 5 minutes to leave my house, or I am throwing these bags out the window and calling the police to remove a trespasser." She left sobbing, dragging her trash bags down the hallway. I immediately called my parents. When my mother answered, I didn't yell. I just said, "I know about the affair. I know you encouraged it. You are dead to me. Do not ever contact me again." I hung up and blocked their numbers. I hired a ruthless divorce attorney yesterday. Because I bought the loft before we were married, and we kept our finances completely separate, my lawyer assured me she has zero claim to the property. I am completely broken, but the sadness is rapidly turning into pure, unadulterated rage. Update 3. 3 months later. This is where the story goes from a tragic family betrayal to the most satisfying, spectacular karma I have ever witnessed. After I kicked Chloe out, she moved directly into my parents' basement with Leo. My divorce lawyer fast-tracked the paperwork, citing the infidelity with undeniable proof. Chloe tried to fight for alimony, claiming she was accustomed to a certain lifestyle, but the judge laughed her out of the courtroom when we presented the text messages of her conspiring to steal my premarital assets. The divorce was finalized quickly and cleanly. She got nothing. However, my parents and Leo weren't done. 3 weeks after the divorce, I was served with a massive civil lawsuit from a legitimate law firm. My parents were suing me. The lawsuit claimed that I had made verbal promises to support Leo's business, and that my refusal had caused him severe financial damage. But the most insane part was a claim that I had exploited my parents' diminished mental capacity to steal the down payment for my loft 4 years ago. When I bought the loft, my parents gifted me $20,000 to help with closing costs. It was a documented gift, signed and notarized for tax purposes, with zero expectation of repayment. Now they were claiming I manipulated them, demanding the $20,000 back with interest. plus $100,000 in damages for Leo's lost opportunities. My lawyer, Sarah, looked at the lawsuit and smiled. "This is a contingency case," she explained. "The law firm is only taking this because someone convinced them there's a massive payout at the end. Someone is feeding your family delusions of grandeur." Sarah hired a private investigator to dig into Leo's business. What we found blew the whole case wide open. Leo had been working with a venture capital facilitator named Victor Vance. Victor was the guy charging my parents $1,000 an hour for Zoom calls. Victor had convinced Leo that he had lined up $50 million in funding from Saudi investors, but they needed a good faith capital injection to release the funds. Victor Vance was running a highly sophisticated advance fee scam. He targeted narcissistic, delusional people on LinkedIn who posted about being misunderstood geniuses. He would hype them up, tell them they were the next Elon Musk, and then bleed their families dry under the guise of consulting fees and legal retainers. Here is where my parents' sheer stupidity destroyed their lives. To pay for the lawsuit against me, and to pay Victor's facilitation fees, my parents took out a massive second mortgage on their house. They gave Victor Vance a wire transfer of $85,000. 2 days after the wire transfer cleared, Victor Vance vanished off the face of the earth. His phone number was disconnected. His website was deleted. His office turned out to be a rented mailbox at a UPS store. Suddenly, my parents were out $85,000, plus the $60,000 they had originally pulled from retirement. Their savings were completely wiped out. They went to the police in a panic. The detective assigned to the case took one look at the wire transfers and called the FBI. It turns out Victor Vance was an alias for a career con artist who was already wanted in 4 states for defrauding over 20 families out of nearly $3 million. The FBI agents interviewed my parents and Leo. The reality check was brutal and immediate. The agents explicitly told them that Leo's company did not exist, the investors were fake, and they had been entirely scammed because Leo was an easy, arrogant mark. When the law firm representing my parents found out the billion-dollar company was a scam and my parents were broke, they immediately dropped the lawsuit. The fallout was catastrophic. Leo had a complete mental breakdown. He posted a 40-minute crying video on YouTube, blaming the government, the Matrix, and me for sabotaging his destiny. The video got 14 views. Chloe, realizing that her billionaire king was actually a broke, unemployed loser living in a basement that was about to be foreclosed on, panicked. She texted me from a new number, begging to talk. She sent me a novel-length apology, claiming Leo manipulated and brainwashed her, and that she made a terrible mistake. She said she missed our loft and our life together. I replied with a single photo. Me, sitting on the balcony of my loft, holding a glass of expensive scotch, with the Seattle skyline in the background. Then I blocked her. Final update epilogue. 6 months later. I am writing this from the balcony of my beautiful, peaceful loft. I wasn't going to update again, but I feel like everyone who followed this insane saga deserves to know how the dust settled. My parents' house went into foreclosure 3 months ago. Between the $145,000 they gave the scammer, the massive second mortgage they took out, and the legal fees they racked up trying to sue me, they were completely bankrupt. The bank seized the house they had lived in for 30 years. They are now renting a cramped, 2-bedroom apartment in a rundown suburb an hour outside the city. My father, who was 2 years away from retirement, had to take a second job working night shifts at a warehouse just to make rent. My mother works at a grocery store deli counter. Leo finally had to get a job. The visionary genius who was meant to change the world is now working at a kiosk in the mall, selling phone cases and screen protectors. He has to wear a bright yellow polo shirt with a name tag. I know this because my aunt took a picture of him and sent it to our extended family group chat with the caption, "The CEO, hard at work." My extended family knows the whole truth now, and they completely ostracized my parents and Leo. Chloe left Leo the moment the money dried up. From what I hear, she tried to move in with one of her friends, but ended up having to move back across the country to live with her own parents. She works as a receptionist at a dental office. My parents have tried to reach out to me a dozen times. They send me letters begging for forgiveness, crying about how hard their lives are now, and heavily hinting that I should help them financially since family is supposed to look out for each other. I take every letter they send, run it through my paper shredder, and use it as packing material when I ship out old clothes to charity. As for me, life has never been better. The housing market in Seattle surged, and my loft was recently appraised at $950,000. I got promoted to lead developer at my firm, which came with a massive salary increase and stock options. I started dating again. I met a wonderful woman named Elena who is an architect. When I told her the story of my ex-wife and my family, she was horrified. But she held my hand and told me I survived a hurricane of toxic waste. We've been renovating the master bathroom together. The exact bathroom Chloe and Leo plotted to remodel. It looks fantastic. My therapist told me something that really stuck with me. You didn't destroy your family. Their greed, their narcissism, and their delusions destroyed them. You just refused to be their collateral damage. They tried to take my home, my wife, and my sanity. In the end, they lost absolutely everything. And I didn't have to lift a finger. I just had to step back and let their own arrogance push them off the cliff. The loft is mine, my life is mine, and I am finally truly free. Top comments. User 1. This is the most satisfying dose of karma I have ever read on this app. Your parents literally funded their own destruction because they wanted to coddle their golden child. And your ex-wife? Laugh my ass off. Traded in $800K loft for a guy selling phone cases at a mall kiosk. Incredible. OP reply. The irony is definitely not lost on me. Chloe was so blinded by the buzzwords and the fake confidence that she completely abandoned reality. The fact that my parents cheered her on while she cheated on me is the part I will never, ever forgive. User 2. I am a lawyer, and the fact that they brought Marcus Vance to your building is hilarious. That guy is a known sovereign citizen type grifter. But I have to ask, did the FBI ever catch Victor Vance? The guy who stole the $85,000? OP reply. Yes, they did. The FBI caught him in Miami trying to run the exact same scam on a different family. He's currently facing federal wire fraud charges. My parents were told they will likely never see a dime of that money again, though, because he had already funneled it through offshore crypto accounts. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. User 3. Your parents having the absolute audacity to ask you for financial help after they tried to sue you for your down payment and supported your wife's affair. The delusion is truly genetic. Good on you for shredding those letters. Enjoy the scotch on the balcony, King. OP reply. Thank you. It took a lot of therapy to stop feeling guilty, but shredding those letters is incredibly therapeutic. Elena and I are actually planning a trip to Italy this summer to celebrate my promotion. Life goes on, and it's much brighter without them in it.